So what is design thinking, and can you explain the process behind design thinking?
Yeah, sure. So as I said that this is something that I was always looking for, even for Mahindra products and products that these startups I was mentoring. Now, when you try to create an affectionate product, uh, you are trying to make it affectionate for somebody, that's the user. And it's important that you realize what your user wants. Now, that's the gap that was happening, because I said, you remember, if I said that people come and say that I have an idea and I want to make a product. So if you start with an idea, then you have made the first mistake. So design thinking essentially is pulling you back to a systematic innovation methodology. Okay. And the word design thinking actually came from the way designers think. Now, design at one point of time, it was all about giving value to a product or any kind of a system.
Sorry, Shanta, I think we lost you there for just a few seconds. If you
Is
don't
it?
mind. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Can you let me know, Nisar, where did you lose me?
Just now, just about 5 seconds ago.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So design thinking, the word actually comes from how a designer thinks, how the thought process of a designer goes. So at one point of time, if you have seen in different organizations, there has to be a design team, and design team was supposed to make the final touch that makes it more close to your user or the customer. Now, that's something that has to change now. That's people have started realizing that this cannot happen at the end. We cannot get the thing that makes a product hooked to a customer at the end. We have to inculcate it in the new product development process. So that's where design thinking came into being, as is now a buzzword, I would rather say. Now, generally, if I go into the design thinking methodology, there are 5 steps, okay? And this 5 step essentially have in this 3 phases of something that what the group IDEO has created, which is starts with inspiration. And under inspiration is you get inspired by something or someone, right? That's essentially your user. Your user's problem is what inspires you to do something. That's why it's in the inspiration stage. And at that stage only, you go around and define the problem statement. That's stage 2 of design thinking. So first is inspiration through empathy. You empathize with your customer, then you move to the define stage. Here in define stage, what you essentially do is you look at the problem as is said by the customer, and then bring it out in your own terms that exactly underlying what is the problem. Sometimes what we say and what the actual problem is way different. If I have time later on, I'll give you an example, something that happened to us. But for the sake of time, let me put it this way. Definition is making it more crisp for you to solve. Okay. Then it moves on to the ideation phase. So ideation phase is more of thinking open, coming up with new ideas from things that people may not have thought about, completely novel, right? That's the ideation phase. After ideation phase, it's the implementation. And for implementation, what you generally do is 2 things. One, you prototype whatever you ideated, whatever you believe is going to solve the problem that your user had. Okay. And next, what you do, once you have the prototype, you test it with your user. Now, here, most important thing is, 2 things that separates out design thinking from any other methodology is the first stage, which is empathy, and the 4th stage, which is prototype. Most of the places, people after ideation, they generally go to talking to the user and telling that this is my idea, do you like it or not? Or they start with the business immediately. So they had the problem, they understood it, they came up with an idea, and they started with implementation. Now, to understand the problem itself only, this initial empathy is very, very important and one of the most difficult stages. I repeat, it is one of the most difficult stages of design thinking, because this is where most of the people or most of the organizations struggle, right? And the other part where they struggle is they don't know exactly that, okay, fine, this is my idea. How do I prototype it? Now, you cannot take an idea and talk to a user to get a feedback. You have to show them something. The problem with innovators is when we get an idea, we believe that the other person I'm talking to already have some idea, I mean, some notion about what came to us. And that stops us from explaining our idea in detail. But when you make a prototype, you can easily give it to somebody and watch what that user is doing with it. How is he fiddling with it? Now you get remarks, feedbacks about that, and you need to keep on changing. So this is what design thinking as a process is. But there's a disclaimer. The disclaimer is design thinking is not a methodology anymore. It's a mindset. You know, across the world, people understand design thinking. A lot of people know design thinking, but people who couldn't apply design thinking are the ones who couldn't understand that it's a mindset. It's something that has to go in your mind. So there are certain qualities of a design thinker. I'll come to it later on if time permits, but this is what design thinking essentially is.